Hello, good evening, all of you. I am Veena Talwar, your English teacher, and today I'll discuss with you Julius Caesar, Act 1, Scene 2. I'm sure you must have seen my previous video, Julius Caesar, Act 1, Scene 1. First of all, let us discuss the broad aspects in this scene. So this scene introduces us to the main characters and to the conspirators against Caesar. Now let us see who are the characters in this scene. First of all, it is Caesar himself with his wife Calpurnia. Then we meet Brutus, who is reserved and thoughtful, with his wife Portia. Then Cicero, the eminent writer and senator. We have next Decius Brutus, who is courtier, a flatterer, and also a conspirator. Cassius, who is the main plotter, the main conspirator, is thin and restless. Then we have Mark Antony, who is ready for the holy race on the feast of Lupercal. We have Casca, who is a bit cynical, and there are other nobility of Rome. Now let us take characters, only the important characters in this scene one by one. First of all, let us discuss about Julius Caesar. We will focus only on the characteristic traits seen in this scene, not the whole play, okay? So focus on the traits, characteristic traits of Julius Caesar in this scene. In this scene, we see Caesar is superstitious and believes in omens and portents. Since he has no child, he orders Antony to touch California in the holy race. Julius Caesar is, of course, highly reputed and very popular among the Romans. He is not divine but mortal. And as the soothsayer reminds him, he is in danger. Then in this scene, we see that Cassius and Brutus, they enter into a private conversation. Cassius tells Brutus that he saw in him less affection than he used to see earlier. So Cassius asks whether Brutus can really see himself. There are many in Rome who are burdened under the yoke of that present state of affairs in Rome. And they all wish that noble Brutus had his eyes open. And then Cassius says, rather he interprets the vague disturbance that Brutus is oppressed by and says that he will serve him as a mirror in which he may view his thoughts. Right? So the two men, that is Brutus and Cassius, while they are talking, they hear shouts in the distance, and Brutus expresses his fear that the people are acclaiming Caesar as their king. Now, Cassius, grasping this opportunity, dilates on the tyranny of the dictator, the so-called dictator, Caesar, and his human frailties also are discussed. He recounts how He once saved Caesar from drowning in the Tiber and also nursed him in Spain when he groaned and shook with fever. But he says Caesar of such a weak constitution has become so great. He's become a god, bestriding the narrow world like a colossus. Cassius says that Caesar is mortal, subject to sickness and death like anyone else. But now he is the only man, just mark, the only man who counts in Rome a giant. He is a giant, a hero, a god. Everyone, even Brutus, is overshadowed. So Rome is disgraced, reduced to just one great Roman. Once there was a Junius Brutus who never would have allowed any man to be a king in Rome. So Brutus understands that Cassius is talking about something very weighty and serious. So he promises him that he would consider the matter further, and so he would like to leave him for the present. Okay, he leaves him, that is, Brutus leaves Cassius, but Cassius is pleased to have struck fire in Brutus. And then in the the same scene, the next event is Caesar and his men come back from the games. As Caesar exits, Brutus and Cassius stop Casca. Brutus pulls him by his sleeve and they start conversing with him. Then Casca tells them that Mark Antony offered the crown to Caesar 3 times, but Caesar rejected it each time and then fell down in an epileptic fit. You know, Caesar was suffering from epilepsy. So we see that Cassius, in a brief soliloquy, indicates his plan to win over Brutus for the conspiracy against Caesar. Cassius will further his work on Brutus to their side by placing anonymous messages in Brutus's house, encouraging his republican pride and hinting at Caesar's tyranny. So Cassius, as I said, is the main conspirator. So he has set fire in Brutus's heart and mind against Caesar. Now Brutus is a noble man. He is an honorable person, but he honors Rome and Romans more than his friend Caesar. So let us see how Brutus joins hands with Cassius in the conspiracy. Now let us comment about Caesar's greatness that we see in this scene. Caesar is treated as if he were a special person. All his wishes are instantly obeyed. The special treatment he receives suggests either that he commands great respect or else he is greatly feared. We have seen in the previous scene also that Flavius and Marullus, that Caesar is puffed up with pride and wishes to soar above the view of men. So he is indeed soaring above the view of men in this scene also. Now, in this scene, we see how Caesar is obeyed by everyone. Caesar gives a series of instructions to his wife, Caliponia, telling her where she should stand. Then he instructs Antony where to run, when to run, and then commands the procession to move forward. As the procession is moving forward, he hears the soothsayer message. So, soothsayer is saying what? To beware the Ides of March. But we know that Caesar is arrogant and proud. Though he is superstitious, because had he not been superstitious, he would not have asked Antony to touch California in the holy race and um, to rub away the infertility in her. But now, when soothsayer says the Ides of March, he says that he is a dreamer. And Caesar is also a very keen observant. He has observed Cassius and tells Antony that Cassius is a dangerous man. And by then, even the readers or the audiences know that Cassius is planning to murder Caesar. So we see that Caesar is a blend of many complex qualities. He is superstitious, but he pretends he is not superstitious. He's a brave person, but then we know that he has a weak personality. He suffers from epilepsy. Then he is hard of hearing. This is his weakness. The story in which Cassius had saved him from being drowned is given to show his weakness, that Caesar is not a demigod but a fragile human being. Cassius says about Caesar, "'Tis true, this god did shake when he was having fever, he was trembling." So Cassius says about Caesar, "'Tis true, this god did shake." But then he is rather surprised that such a weak man should prove a winner in the contest for power and position. Okay, that was about Caesar. Now let us discuss something about Cassius. Cassius is a man with keen insight, jealous of Caesar, and resentful of his authority. Cassius uses available means to reach his desired ends. That is why he tries his best to include Brutus on his side. So, because Brutus is an honorable man and he has earned high opinion in the eyes of Romans. So, if Brutus is on his side, then people will not doubt about his action, especially the assassination of Caesar. Cassius is a clever manipulator. He incites Brutus under the pretext of honor and freedom, especially with freedom from Caesar. In order to convince Brutus, Cassius shows that Caesar is a weak and vulnerable mortal. Furthermore, Brutus is reminded how his ancestor defended the freedom of Rome by driving away Tarquin kings. That is, the Tarquin kings were the brutes, were the barbarian people. Now, character of Brutus. Let us see what Brutus shows in this scene. Brutus exhibits a deep commitment to personal honor and nobility. Check that. After Cassius successfully extracts from him a clear statement that he does not wish Caesar to be king, Brutus asks Cassius to express himself with more clarity. But when Cassius states bluntly that assassination may be the only solution, Brutus wants to hear no more for the present. He wants to consider the question further in private before he commits himself to Cassius. Now, Brutus's idealism causes him to view with disfavor the intrigues and the manipulations common to the political man. Nevertheless, Brutus is intelligent enough to recognize Cassius's indirect approach, and he abruptly asks him, "Into what dangers would you lead on?" Brutus is a slow, deliberate thinker when faced with moral choices, but he has a tendency to make quick decisions on important matters. Now, Casca cannot be left behind, so let us discuss something about Casca. In this scene that we see that Casca does three things. First, he informs us of what was going on off stage during during the conversation between Cassius and Brutus on one side. He provides us with an eyewitness account of political showmanship in which Antony offered Caesar the crown and Caesar rejected it. Secondly, Casca's description of Caesar's behavior is so low that we can understand why Brutus might yield to join Cassius's conspiracy. Thirdly, we cannot help attributing to Casca an irrational prejudice against Caesar. Okay, so these are the main characters in this scene 1. I hope you have understood, and if you are interested, we can take up some question answers in video next time. Right? Okay, thank you. Yes.